Tonight, missile campaigns intensify in the Middle East as Donald Trump warns of a big wave of strikes to come. Meanwhile, Iran shuts down a major sea passage, raising more fears about global oil supplies. Hello, I'm Jeremy Fernandez. This is ABC News. A man is shot dead by police after a knife attack in Sydney's east. Bold plans for a new harbourside suburb in Sydney's inner city. The PM tables a leaked report into the Liberals' election defeat. And football fever hits Parramatta. Fans flock to the Asian World Cup. US President Donald Trump is warning that the biggest strike on Tehran is yet to come and that he'll send in American troops if necessary. On the third day of the widening conflict, the Iranian regime's retaliation has hit 14 countries across the Gulf. It's pounding key oil refineries and shut down the Strait of Hormuz. The human cost of the war is also coming into focus. One human rights group says at least 1,500 people have been killed in Iran by the US and Israeli strikes, including 200 civilians. Iran's latest retaliatory strikes have also hit an airbase used by Australians. We begin our coverage with Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran.
Iran's capital under fire as the US strikes from the air and the sea. Daylight revealing the extent of destruction at the Gandhi hospital in the city's north. It was evacuated on Sunday after Israeli missiles fell nearby. Explosion also felt by residents in neighbouring apartments.
Suddenly I saw the door and windows and everything being thrown towards me. The chandelier fell and thick smoke covered everywhere. I was shocked.
And the United States says the biggest hits are yet to come. President Donald Trump honouring soldiers of past wars and the 6 American troops who've died in this new one.
In their memory, we continue this mission with ferocious, unyielding resolve. We have a lot of great service members here with us, too, in this beautiful building. Isn't it beautiful? We're improving the building. See that nice drape?
The president distracted in his first live address since the start of a war which could define his presidency.
Somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly, after that he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this.
Iran and its allies have fired back, hitting a hotel housing US troops in northern Iraq. In Bahrain, dozens of Iranian missiles and drones have been intercepted, but some slipped through. And an airbase outside Dubai, used by Australian forces, was also struck over the weekend.
All the Australians who are there are safe and accounted for.
We don't seek to regionalise the war. It will become regional simply because US bases and facilities are spread across our region.
In Kuwait, 3 US fighter jets were mistakenly shot down from apparent friendly fire. All 6 crew members managed to eject safely.
You want to save. You want to save. You want to save.
As the widening war enters a third day, there's still little clarity about what the US hopes to achieve and the legality of the preemptive strikes alongside Israel.
The imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us.
The US is praising Israel as a capable partner.
Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force.
Force which Israel is unleashing to its north. Renewing airstrikes on the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, which has joined Iran in the conflict. Civilians are fleeing the country's south and Hezbollah's stronghold suburbs in Beirut after overnight strikes killed at least 50 people.
We heard the sound of planes. At first we thought it was the airport because we live near it. Then we heard shelling. Suddenly people started screaming.
The United Nations is urging a return to diplomacy, but in the battered central Israeli city of Beit Shemesh, President Isaac Herzog was defiant.
We want peace, and for this, sometimes you need to fight, and that's exactly what we're doing. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, how do you respond to criticism from the UN that this is a breach of international law?
The first Israelis killed have been laid to rest. At least 9 have died.
There was no siren. Suddenly the missile landed directly on the synagogue.
President Trump hasn't ruled out sending in American troops, saying he doesn't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground, and predicts the campaign will be over in 4 to 5 weeks.
To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq.
This is not an endless war. This is, in fact, something that will usher in an era of peace that we haven't even dreamed of.
But in its fight for survival, the Iranian regime says it's prepared for a long war.
And Matthew is live for us in Tel Aviv tonight. Matthew, Iran is escalating its retaliatory strikes across the region and has now hit a US embassy in Saudi Arabia.
Jeremy, good evening. This is a suspected drone attack on the US Embassy in the Saudi capital, Riyadh, in the early hours of this morning. Given the time of day, it's not believed there have been any injuries, and damage does appear to be fairly minimal. But it is again reinforcing these comments from the US State Department that Americans in this region should try to leave if they can, noting, of course, the travel chaos which has enveloped much of this part of the world. The diplomatic quarter in Riyadh, where the US Embassy is, the Australian Embassy in Riyadh is just a couple of hundred metres down the road, and that too has been closed given the deteriorating security situation. It shows that Iran is becoming more and more emboldened in attacking countries it wouldn't normally go after as it expands its aggression across the region. We also need to note that in the last few moments we've heard from the Israeli Defence Minister Israel Katz. He has authorised the IDF to start encroaching and advancing into Lebanese territory in the south of the country. Another escalation on another front. Jeremy.
Matthew Dorton reporting live from Tel Aviv. Well, a small number of commercial flights have managed to fly out of the war-ravaged region. The federal government says there's no immediate solution for stranded Australians. More than 17,000 flights have been delayed globally, and for travellers, there's no end in sight.
As missiles flew across the region, stranded tourists took shelter in hotel basements, bedding down on floors and mattresses as they waited out the night.
People were generally fearful for their lives. I was just absolutely terrified.
Sydney woman Kelly Exner is now safe at a friend's home in Dubai, but has no idea for how long, and only has a few weeks' worth of medication for severe refractory Crohn's disease.
I think everybody just needs to manage expectations about when we get out, right? Like, it's terrifying, it's, scary. It's absolutely horrible to be, away from friends and family in a country that you don't understand.
Back home in the Blue Mountains, Andy and Rachel Foster are $30,000 out of pocket for a trip they were meant to embark on tonight.
Because it was the weekend, we couldn't get in touch with the travel agent, so we just sort of tried to make our own decisions as to what we thought was going to happen.
The Australian government is working on contingencies to get Australians out, but has ruled out military-assisted evacuation for now.
I am advised that a small number of commercial flights to other destinations were able to depart overnight. However, the unfortunate reality is that immediate resolution to this situation is unlikely.
And experts are warning of more retaliatory strikes by Iran on infrastructure across the region.
I see no reason why they would stop doing it, because they already see that they're getting some results from it. A huge airport like Dubai Airport has been closed down, which has a massive effect on international aviation.
More than 17,000 flights have been delayed globally and more than 3,000 cancelled as of this morning. Australians in the Middle East are urged to register with the Department of Foreign Affairs, while airlines are telling customers to closely monitor flight information and visit the government's Smart Traveller website. Christy Sexton-McGrath, ABC News.
The war is threatening global oil and gas supplies, with concerns the supply shock could stoke inflation and send petrol prices soaring. The Treasurer has directed the competition watchdog to monitor petrol prices. Meanwhile, interest rate hikes are now looking more likely.
Smoke billowing from one of the world's biggest refineries after it was hit by Iranian drones. This attack on key Saudi Arabian oil infrastructure marks a dramatic escalation in Iran's strategy to halt the flow of oil to the west. That has Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock worried.
It's too early to say what the economic impact will be. A supply shock of this nature, for example, could add to inflation pressures, and the potential implications for inflation expectations also are something that we're very alert to.
That's code for prepare for possible rate hikes. After the weekend attacks, Iran's retaliation initially targeted military installations across the region, along with 3 tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, everything from ports to pipelines is in its sights.
An Iranian general has said not one drop of oil leaving the region. The US is certainly looking to prevent that scenario from happening.
Saudi Arabia, the world's biggest exporter, ships the bulk of its oil and gas through the Persian Gulf, along with Bahrain, Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE and Iran. But it has a pipeline to shunt oil and gas through the Red Sea in case of a threat.
The pipeline infrastructure doesn't move anywhere near as much as the on-sea shipping capacity. So yes, it helps and it limits the damage, but it doesn't replace shipping.
Qatar, one of the world's biggest gas exporters, has shut down LNG production after strikes against 2 facilities. A spike in gas prices 4 years ago sent inflation into orbit. That forced the RBA into a punishing series of rate hikes. The Treasurer is warning against price gouging at the petrol pump, but surging gas prices could be a much bigger headache. Ian Verrinder, ABC News.
In Sydney, a man has been shot dead by police after allegedly attacking 2 women while armed with a knife in the city's east. Police say the man assaulted the women in their apartments in what they believe were random acts of violence.
As a tense standoff plays out on this quiet Potts Point street, police race to provide backup just moments before it turns deadly.
We were like, it can't be a gunshot. Like, we're in Potts Point.
Minutes earlier, police say a man entered an apartment complex and assaulted 2 women who live in separate units. One of them was allegedly attacked with a weapon, while the other suffered blunt force trauma to the head.
I could hear a woman's voice in a muffled tones saying, "Help, help."
Both those females have head and facial injuries and both have been taken to hospital.
When officers arrived, they say the man was armed with a knife and wasn't backing down.
I could hear police voices just yelling, drop the knife.
A taser was deployed. It was ineffective.
The man then allegedly confronted police, who responded by shooting him once.
After the gunshot, maybe like 20, 25 more police officers started running down, like, in vests and stuff.
Paramedics weren't far behind, but the man, aged in his late 30s, died at the scene. Police say the 2 women were not known to him.
I've got police officers going home today after being confronted by something very, very violent, who are going home safe and well, although traumatised.
This attack, which took place just across the road from the Navy base, triggered a large police response. Detectives have been talking to as many residents as possible as they try to figure out exactly what happened here. The 2 victims are being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Ethan Ricks, ABC News, Sydney.
Sydney is set to get a new harbourside suburb. The Glebe Island port will be closed to make way for apartment towers of more than 40 stories. The new precinct will be called Bays West.
For years, there's been talk about transforming Sydney's last working port. The Disney company once considered developing the site. Now the future of Glebe Island has been decided. It'll turn into a suburb called Bays West, filled with up to 8,500 waterfront homes.
I think it's a good idea because at the moment it's like no man's land and it's very ugly to look at Glebe Island the way it is, and we need housing.
You need a working port, otherwise it's all got to go out of Sydney, and it goes out of Sydney on semi-trailers.
The port is mostly used to unload cement, gypsum and sugar. It's likely those operations will move to Wollongong's Port Kembla.
Maritime workers are getting screwed over. One thing I do know, they won't be able to afford the houses on Glebe Island.
The Maritime Union says the port's loss will make building materials more expensive.
The advice that we have is that it's the equivalent of about $50 for an apartment.
The Sydney Heritage Fleet shipyard will move to White Bay, near the cruise ship terminal. The units will be above the Bays West metro station under construction. At least 10% will be kept for affordable and essential worker homes.
10% in the midst of one of the most severe housing crises we've seen in generations in Sydney is simply not good enough.
The bulk material operations will end when the leases expire in 2030. The government says the first residents are expected to move in around the time the metro opens in 2032. The cement silos will go.
They're gross, they need to come down. They're not real Roman columns.
Vestiges of industry that'll be consigned to history. Alexander Lewis, ABC News, Sydney.
A teenager in WA has pleaded guilty to threatening to kill the New South Wales Premier and Prime Minister. Will James King made the threats in a direct message to Chris Minns' Instagram account in January. King said he would assassinate the Premier and Prime Minister and also messaged the words, "You're a Jew, not a real Semite." The magistrate said there was no explanation for the comments and sought a psychological report before sentencing. The 19-year-old's lawyer said his client was extremely remorseful and didn't realise the gravity of his messages.
My client is a young man, and like anybody else, he made an honest mistake.
The Prime Minister has taunted his political opponents tabling in Parliament the Liberal Party's secret election review. The report makes for uncomfortable reading for the current Liberal leadership team, blaming their policies in part for the party's dismal result. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
Brandishing a review his opponents wanted to bury.
I table it for them so that they can read the report.
The Prime Minister put the Liberal Party's secret election review on the public record.
About the diabolical campaign that they ran.
In a copy obtained by the ABC, Peter Dutton's described as a grim and introverted leader who made himself captain, coach and ball boy of an incoherent campaign. He presided over the Liberals' worst ever election defeat. Every demographic except over 55s was lost in a campaign that alienated women and offended migrants. Another point of failure, policies. The decision to oppose Labor's income tax cuts immediately impacted on the coalition's economic credentials. The deeply unpopular working from home plan, the turning point, which cost one regional candidate her seat. Policies the new Liberal leadership team were responsible for.
Those who now have control of the party were the architects of their electoral defeat.
Oh, well, I would have thought a Minister of the Crown had better things to do than read a Liberal Party election review, but clearly not.
Can I thank you once again?
The review discussed at today's joint party room meeting, MPs committing to learn from their defeat.
We should go much further and make sure that we are an election-winning machine.
The decision by the party's executive not to publish this report now looks like an own goal. It was always going to leak, and the party's accepted most of its recommendations. For his part, Peter Dutton thinks it's a distorted version of history, but the end of an unedifying chapter. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
More than 9 hours of video has been released of Bill and Hillary Clinton answering questions about the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Sitting through separate depositions in a US congressional probe, the Clintons distanced themselves from the disgraced financier, suggesting the current US president might have more to share.
A former president distancing himself from a pedophile.
I have no idea. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I do not remember doing that. There's nothing that I saw when I was around him that made me realize he was trafficking women.
Newly released recordings showing Bill Clinton answering questions from a House committee investigating the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't remember everything that happened 24 years ago.
The former president saying he cut ties long before his crimes were discovered in 2008 and that his trips on Epstein's jet were related to his foundation's work combating AIDS across the globe. Calm under questioning.
I'm not happy, but I'm comfortable.
No matter how uncomfortable the evidence.
Did you ever have sexual contact with any young woman or girl introduced to you by Epstein or Maxwell?
No.
The former president revealed little that wasn't already on the public record.
Mr. President, what did you accept? That he killed himself or that he did not?
That he did, but I don't know.
In the same chair a day earlier, Hillary Clinton revealed even less.
I do not recall ever meeting Jeffrey Epstein.
Her long day under oath was tense after a Republican member leaked a picture from inside the closed room.
I'm done with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home.
The former Secretary of State said she only had a casual friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell, a +1 to her daughter's 2010 wedding, and suggested Donald Trump could be more helpful.
But given what's in the files and given past and prior conduct, he would be on my witness list.
The president denies any wrongdoing. Melissa McKay, ABC News.
To finance now, here's Alan Kohler.
The American market was held steady by oil company shares going up and an unrelated bounce in tech stocks, but shares in Japan and Europe were hit fairly hard. And that was the tone in Australia today, where mining stocks and others with a global focus were sold. Energy companies and banks were bought. Oil, gas, gold and silver continued to rally for obvious reasons, especially gas, after the world's biggest LNG export facility in Qatar was shut down after it was hit by an Iranian drone. At one stage, European gas futures were up 54% before settling 39% higher. And gold is having another run at its record high. And the Aussie dollar is standing still, holding its breath, hoping nobody notices it. The ABS released housing approvals data for January today. They fell 7.2%, with units down 25%. Now, the Reserve Bank's head economist, Sarah Hunter, gave a very interesting speech in Norway last night, comparing what the RBA has done with interest rates against the average of other advanced countries. Our cash rate peaked at 4.35%, as we know. The others, on average, peaked at 5.7%. They're now the same at 3.85%. That's meant higher inflation here than it would have been, what Sarah Hunter calls the counterfactual, if the RBA cash rate had been the same as the average of the others. More importantly for the RBA, it's also meant less unemployment, which was the plan. Our unemployment rate is 4.1%. The counterfactual is 5.2%. And the grey shaded area shows the range of other advanced countries, which is enormous. And Australia's jobless rate is the lowest. And that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30, as different states look to tighten their gun laws, an investigation into what will keep Australians safe.
In Australia, the mere act of owning a firearm is a political act.
We said we would respond and respond we have.
There doesn't seem to be any relationship between the number of legally owned guns and firearm violence in Australia.
I guess we can make the same argument, why don't we ban cars? We'll have less car accidents. It's not a practical outcome.
To sport, the Matildas midfielder Amy Sayer has acknowledged the bravery of the Iranian women's team ahead of Thursday's Asian Cup group game on the Gold Coast. Sayer says the Matildas' hearts go out to the Iranian women who are playing while their country is under attack.
Back in training on the Gold Coast, the Matildas are aiming to maintain their unbeaten start to the Asian Cup and improve on their underwhelming 1-0 win over the Philippines. But they're also mindful of the pressure that their next opponent, Iran, is under on and off the pitch.
Our heart goes out to them and their families. It's a difficult situation. And, you know, it's really brave of them to be able to be here and to perform. The best we can do to contribute is to just give them the best game of football that we're able to, show them the respect on the field.
The Iran players also had the respect of the fans last night before they played their first game of the tournament.
It's going to be very hard for them to just be in the match. We'll support them to do their best, and we're more than happy to have them here.
I would say it's not easy to be a female Iranian athlete. I don't think the West will ever understand the dynamics that they have to deal with.
There was no singing from the Iran team members during the national anthem. They had some promising moments in a determined display, but were outclassed 3-0 by the 2022 finalist, South Korea.
And it's headed home.
North Korea also started its campaign on a winning note.
And the follow-up volley!
Defeating Uzbekistan 3-0 in Parramatta. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
And thousands of fans flocked to Parramatta today to catch the first Women's Asian Cup matches to be held in Sydney. North Korea beat Uzbekistan 3-0, and the match between China and Bangladesh is underway now.
the global game in the heart of Sydney. Fans colourful and confident.
I think we're going to smash it. I think we're going to win. We're going to take it, obviously.
Korean Australians are taking a diplomatic approach to the Cup.
We're actually from South Korea, but the North Korea are our brothers and sisters, and there's no one else here supporting them, so we've got to support.
Sydney's brought the two countries together before.
In 2000 Olympics, Sydney Olympics, North and South Koreans have marched in together at the opening ceremony, holding this flag.
It's Bangladesh's first time in the tournament. A convoy of 200 supporters from southwest Sydney travelling to the match.
We are carrying our flags, we are wearing the T-shirts, we are carrying the tigers from Bangladesh.
The mood at Parramatta Stadium today is infectious, with members of Sydney's vast multicultural community getting behind women's football.
But there's still a firm fan favourite.
The whole cup, I think the Matildas will win.
Bangladesh will take on North Korea back at Parramatta on Friday. Julia Andre, ABC News, Sydney.
The NRL player Zach Lomax has settled his legal fight with Parramatta and has agreed not to return to the NRL without the Eels' consent before the 2028 season. The New South Wales Supreme Court has been told that the terms of his release stay the same, except Lomax will now be able to return without their consent in 2028 instead of the initially agreed 2029. He had been trying to sign with the Melbourne Storm, who'll now have to pay the Eels $250,000 in legal costs. Let's take a look at the weather now. And Tom, more drought relief has continued for parts of the state today.
Jeremy, up to 100 millimetres has fallen since midnight across the central west, and while the tropical low has now weakened, residual moisture will maintain isolated showers and storms during the coming days. But tonight, well, there's a blood moon on the rise, a total lunar eclipse. They occur on average every 2.5 years when the sun, earth and moon line up perfectly. And that puts the moon perfectly in the Earth's shadow, which causes blue light from the sun to scatter in the Earth's atmosphere, leaving red light to bend towards the moon. The total eclipse, lasting about an hour, will commence just after 10 p.m. on the coast and about 10:15 in the state's west. But there's a major problem. It's cloudy. The west of the state is under a blanket of low cloud, while thicker cloud covers much of the east. There are a few clear slots, though, maybe on the far north coast or this little area just around the central west. And that cloud has delivered more useful rain. In the 24 hours to 9 a.m, Cowra 81 millimetres, their heaviest fall in 23 years, while Grenfell 93 millimetres of rain was the top fall in 40 years. But as is often the case, some areas have missed out. Griffith, for example, has only seen a few drops. And on tonight's radar, well, we're still seeing some rain over parts of the inland. Bathurst more than 40 millimetres since 9 a.m. Sydney only received a few millimetres overnight and was mostly cloudy but dry today. It remained warm and humid. A low of 21 in the city was 3 above the average. A top of 26 was 1 above. Penrith hit 28 and it felt as warm as 32, though, in the ongoing high humidity. It was another sultry night for many. Tamworth 24 was 9 above average and an autumn record. Today's maximums were mostly near normal, although the far west was as much as 7 below. On the chart tomorrow, a near stationary trough will trigger further showers and thunderstorms, mostly in the state's southeast. Around the country is a high chance of showers and a possible storm in Canberra, possible shower and 26 for Brisbane. Now for the northeast tomorrow, medium chance of showers for the Hunter, just a slight risk for the mid-north coast and the northern rivers, along with the southern part of the ranges. For the southeast, the slight risk of showers and storms on the central tablelands and a high chance of showers and storms elsewhere, which could be severe in the south with heavy falls and flash flooding. To the west then, a chance of showers and thunderstorms from the northwest to the southeast, and they're most likely around the southwest slopes. On the waters, winds from 15 to 25 knots and seas from 1 to 2 metres. For Sydney, partly cloudy, medium chance of showers, more likely in the morning, but there's also the chance of a late storm. Northeasterly winds to 25 kilometres per hour, 21 to 29 in the city, top of 27 for Bondi, 30 for most of the west. The sun will rise at 6:44 and set at 7:30. And ahead for the city, not much variability this week. Warm and humid with the chance of showers and storms. It's only a slight risk, though, for Thursday, 29, a medium chance Friday and 29, then a high chance of showers and storms, 27 for both Saturday and Sunday, ahead of further showers early next week. And for the west, showers and possible storms every day. Tops of 31 to 32 for Thursday, Friday. Cooling to 28 Saturday, 26 on Sunday, and then warming slightly early next week. Jeremy?
Tom, thank you. That's the latest from the news team. Sarah Ferguson joins you next with 7:30.